Alright guys, we're going to do a video with Konstantin of Triggernometry, and it's a talking panel discussion with Yanis V, whatever his last name, Cynthia Miller-Idriss, whatever her last name is, hyphenated, so we know what that probably means. Let's go ahead and start this. They're talking DEI, the West, mainly just the West. And this guy right here brings up some slavery and everything about that. You know how that goes. But let's get this started.
Naive idea, because of course, it'll never happen. But let's just, if you could control things, would you want every other nation to become as wealthy as the West? Would you want them to become as democratic as the West? Yanis.
Oh, me?
Why not?
Well, allow me to answer by means of an example, which touches upon something Konstantin said. That, the riffraff out there, outside the West, are dying to come to our shores, and therefore it means that we're civilized and we're better. Well, take the Democratic Republic of Congo. The King of Belgium created a slave colony there for 30 years, then it was taken over by the state of Belgium for 40 years. Then, as they were gaining independence, the CIA murdered their first president. And now today, Glencore, one of our great corporations, is mining all sorts of cobalt derivatives and so on, giving zero to the people of the Republic of Congo.
That's just a bad trade deal. Like, if that's the case, and I don't believe it is, I know Apple, I believe, has a contractor themselves for cobalt. And I mean, Apple is at the top of their game, right? Like they're a trillion dollars. I don't know the history that he's talking about either, so I'm not gonna discuss that. But I'm highly skeptical of the fact that the Congo allowed these people. I mean, the Congo obviously can war, they can fight. So, like, why wouldn't they just be like, yeah? I mean, a contractor. I mean, yeah, a corporation could hire private military, go to war with these guys, blah, 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 do all that shit. But it would not look good on the, the surface of the world and news and everything.
I'd like to live in a West which is not a parasite on people that it then denigrates by saying that you are the riffraff and you want to come to a beautiful garden and this is why, and therefore our dream is to stop you from coming, which is your dream.
Okay, no, but in a way...
The West being a parasite, like this dude's never been to the Middle East or the Congo.
It is the ultimate aim. I mean, if you could do it, that yes, you don't have whatever the mining companies doing whatever they do in other nations, but those nations...
The mining company is... There could be a mining company there that's just there doing their thing without contracts with Apple, Samsung. Samsung's a large lithium battery. Cobalt used in lithium batteries mainly, and some other things, but mainly lithium batteries. I just can't see like a guy like me going into the Congo for cobalt without a freaking contract first. Like that's not, you want a contract unless his mining company also owns a cobalt selling company, two different companies. That's a possibility. I'm not saying that's true, but until he starts listing names of these companies, I'm going to take what he's saying with a freaking grain of salt.
Nations build up. I'm just wondering if the dream is a multipolar world.
Well, very briefly, the dream is to have cooperation, solidarity, and...
I don't know what a multipolar world is. In fact, let's do a little quick Google search. Might edit this out. Multipolar world definition. Multipolar world is a characterization by several countries having most of the power rather than a single dominant power, in which a world there are multiple centers of power or interest. It requires a systematic way of thinking beyond the unipolar or command and control approach. Okay. You can't have it. We are a multipolar world, technically. I mean, there's multiple powers in control of different portions of the world. It's not the whole. It's I don't know what they're trying to get at, I guess.
In development of everyone
with that
lives
word
on this planet.
The land of milk and honey too. We must have that.
So, Konstantin, is that what you would also
like
say?
Konstantin.
Well, we only have an hour and 40 minutes, so let me be brief.
The multipolar world, is that something that you should say?
No, the multipolar world is an atrocious idea whose consequences will be...
They need to define these terms before they use these things. They need to agree upon a term, because multipolar world is characterized by several countries having most of the power that currently is the system we live under. A unipolar or a command and control approach is something else. Yes, this foreignpolicy.com says, yes, the world is a multipolar. Okay, whatever.
Exactly the consequences we have when you see a multipolar world within one country. That country is Mexico. Mexico is controlled by a large number of cartels. And when one of them is taken out, what ensues is a chaotic fight for dominance.
Kind of. So the history of Mexico is very weird. There was like 3 or 4 big cartels in Mexico, and basically one now runs like all of Mexico. And they like have control of the police and stuff. Maybe some Mexican would know a little bit more than I do on that. I want to be friends as an American, the United States of America. I want to be friends with Mexico, and I would love to see Mexico stabilized, like beyond what it is currently, like Canada stable, even though Canada's kind of in a shithole right now.
Multipolar world will lead to conflagration, inevitably, because somebody has to be on top. It's unavoidable. And
somebody has to be on top.
Of course. Now, Yanis's point about cooperation is entirely wonderful, but the best way to predict human behavior is to look at human behavior in the past. When is this great age in which everyone just sat together?
So that is a good argument to bring back slavery, because almost every society until 200 years ago had slavery.
What a nut job.
May I address what Yanis has said repeatedly, actually? I think it's important to do so. What he said on stage during his presentation is entirely true, which is that many of the riches of Western societies are the product of the resources that were taken from other parts of the world. What I'm afraid this analysis is missing is the fact that during that time, as during the present time, the entire world was competing on that very same model. The only reason that the European powers were able to be as effective as they were is that they had superior technology. And superior
technology. And they were not imperialists.
May I finish? 1 second. Okay. I will come to you to respond. But let's let Konstantin make the point.
Factually correct.
We've got an hour and 40. Well, we're good.
It was only Europe that set out to destroy and to extract.
Right, we've only just started. Konstantin.
It's true. I'm also slightly Greek, so this is Greek on Greek violence here.
Get to the point, because otherwise...
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to need a little time to get to the point, especially if I'm interrupted. So, every other civilization in human history has practiced slavery in one form or another.
Yes.
Every other civilization, including the Native Americans...
So if we go back long enough in human history, before civilization even started, so... people say civilization started around the Mediterranean, and when a civilization definition would be farming. That's food, animals, and staying in one spot, making permanent residence or semi-permanent. Because in the Middle East, still to this day, they're kind of nomadic still. Still to this day, winter comes, they kind of move out of that area because it just gets nasty. It gets nasty in some portions of Afghanistan, so they'll move around a little bit. Not everybody does that. Some people still take a permanent residence and everything, and that's kind of how ancient civilizations worked, like when they first were formed. So you can say like the Sumerians made a permanent residence, but it was only like most likely semi-permanent, in my opinion. If I'm going off of what we kind of see civilization, they kind of half farmed, half nomad. That's when I consider it the start of civilization. And even at that point, when it was more tribal, they were enslaving other tribes. Just factual across the globe.
Americans who were enslaving?
Probably before we were upright. So probably before we were Homo sapiens or Homo erectus, we were most likely enslaving other. I mean, it's just how it is.
Each other and anyone they could find. The Middle Eastern Arab slave trade across the Saharan desert was worse and lasted longer than the transatlantic slave trade. And every other great empire in history attempted to practice slavery to the very best of its ability, to do the very thing that Yanis rightly accuses Western powers of doing. Now, the reason the West was more successful at this is it was more technologically advanced and was able to transport people across oceans in a way that at that time no other civilization could.
Yes,
so, yes, it is true that the Western history is one of
success in slavery from the West or the British Empire, and some the transatlantic slave trade or whatever they call it was successful, but I mean. If we look at the Ottoman or the Persian Empire, the amount of slaves that they were able to create and dominate over is just astronomical. I mean, it's massive. The Roman Empire, they did a pretty good job just because they took over so much land. The Persian Empire did a good job because they were really good at dominating. They just could go in, enslave people. The success is just not measured in one aspect. The Western societies were good at it, but I wouldn't say they were the best. I mean, that's not really something that I would. It's so hard to say. Because the Persian Empire, I mean, even during the transatlantic trade, if we're the best at trading who are we buying them from? Now, if we're just trading slaves, sure, but who is enslaving these people first? It's not like we're just going into a country and being like, oh, these are all our slaves, like the Romans, the Persians, the Ottomans would do. Whatever you Ottoman, Persian, you know, that we can get into discussion on that. But anyways, the Muslim barbers, pirates, were amazing at just warring up countries and taking those people and enslaving them, especially from North Africa. And they would go down into Central Africa and just take people and trade them into slavery and everything. So it's not just this one-way street. It's not like the British or the French or whoever just walked into Central Africa, took a bunch of people. No, they bought them from Muslim barbers. Like, they bought them from Muslim pirate countries and everything. So, like, you know, who's really the best at it? Sort of thing. And you can argue that Muslims are Caucasian and everything like that, which, you know, then they'd be like, oh, they're the same people. But I mean, I wouldn't go that far.
Colonialism and enslavement, but that is only because we were better at it than other people. That's the only reason that we are where we are.
So just to go,
we were good at organization. So not only was it the West that kind of stopped the barber pirates and kind of made this bad blood, it was the U.S. that started this. Basically started a war against the pirates and everything. And that would be kind of the start of the end of the slave trade.
I will come to you in a minute, but just to go back to the specific question.
Yes.
Should we be aiming towards a multipolar world? You would say, look, we're a competitive world. Let's just compete against everyone else.
I would say that the best world is a stable one, and the construction we have had for some time now has been one of the best periods in human history since the end of World War II. Now, why has that been?
Even before, but yeah.
Well, I would argue for the billions of people around the world who've been lifted out of poverty during the same time, in addition to for the West. Now, is that maintainable? Well, that's, I think, the issue that we're in discussions about. I don't know if that's maintainable, but my argument, the argument I made, and the reason that we're having this debate about slavery, is that I consider Western values, I don't think we should bomb them into the people of Iraq and Afghanistan, as some of our leaders have been attempting to do, but they are the best values, at least for those of us who want to live in the West, and we should maintain them as much as we possibly can, and then other people may wish to buy into that worldview as well.
Okay, Cynthia, where are you on this?
Well, I think it's...
All right, guys, we're going to end this video right here. Basically, there's going to be multiple parts of this. This is with Konstantin and his panel. They're having a discussion and everything. But if you like this video, go ahead and comment, like, subscribe. You know, the usual YouTube crap. So look forward to the next video.